Picture this, right? You're sitting on the cool grass under the massive twisting branches of this ancient cotton tree.
Oh, I can totally see it.
Yeah, and the air around you is just thick with the smell of wood smoke. And underneath that, there's this rich, spiced aroma of baking sweet potato pudding kind of wafting over to you.
Sounds incredible, honestly.
Right. And sitting right across from you is an elder, and he's just unspooling these stories. Stories that, well, they somehow blur the line between everyday family history and this profound, almost ancient life philosophy.
Yeah, that's the exact vibe of what we're looking at today.
Exactly. The elder in this scenario is Lorna's grandfather. And the stories we're extracting today for this deep dive come from a really moving text by Olga Forin called Conversations with My Grandfather.
Which is just a brilliant piece of work, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to pull out the wisdom from these stories because they aren't just, quaint family memories to pass the time.
No, not at all. They're survival guides. Like what we're looking at today is essentially a masterclass in intentional living. It's about community resilience and really facing both life and death with this brutal, beautiful honesty.
Brutal honesty is right. So let's start with that smell of wood smoke I mentioned earlier. Lorna recounts this memory from when she was just 7 years old.
Okay.
Her grandfather decides to build an earth oven right in the middle of their yard. He lays a foundation of old bricks and river stones, and then he packs it with red clay, mud, broken coconut shells, and straw to make this large dome.
Which, just from an engineering standpoint, is a brilliant piece of practical construction.
Really? How so?
Oh, yeah. By mixing that clay with the straw and the coconut shells, the grandfather is creating a composite material. The dense clay provides the thermal mass, right, to hold the heat,
Right.
while the straw acts as insulation, literally trapping it inside.
Wow, okay. So he's building a powerhouse of an oven. Meanwhile, her grandmother is out in the outdoor kitchen, grating light yellow yam by hand. She's squeezing fresh coconut meat through a cloth to make milk.
That is so much work.
Right. And then she's folding in brown sugar, rum-soaked raisins, nutmeg, cinnamon, allspice. And when it comes time to bake it, the grandfather sweeps out the ashes, puts the cast-iron Dutch pot of pudding inside, and seals the door.
And doesn't he shovel hot coals on top of the pot, too?
He does. He calls it fire top, fire bottom, yum yum in the middle.
I love that. But scientifically, he's creating a perfectly sealed, radiant heat environment. It functions like an ancient pressure cooker. It bakes the pudding evenly from all directions.
So the smell drifting from this oven is so intense that neighbors literally just start wandering over to the yard. It becomes this massive communal event. But here's where the lesson comes in. The grandfather insists that 7-year-old Lorna share this pudding with everyone.
Even though she doesn't want to.
Exactly. She admits she was feeling pretty greedy and just wanted the biggest piece for herself. And I mean, I get the sentiment of sharing, obviously.
Yeah.
But let's unpack this for a second.
Sure.
Isn't it really just about sharing a good meal? Like, why make such a heavy philosophical point out of giving away dessert?
Because the grandfather is using the pudding as a physical manifestation of a social battery.
A social battery.
Yeah. He tells her, many work together, therefore many shall play, eat, sing, and dance together. I mean, think about what actually went into that oven.
A lot of labor, for sure.
Right. Someone had to gather the wood. Someone hauled those heavy stones from the river. Someone brought the extra nutmeg. If community is a battery, everyone has to plug their own physical labor into it to charge it up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the pudding is simply that collective energy being released back to them. He's teaching her the labor theory of community. You don't just share the reward, You have to acknowledge the invisible web of effort that actually made the reward possible.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. But that deep respect for shared space and labor, it wasn't limited to just human interactions, was it?
No, not at all.
The grandfather applied those exact same rules to the earth itself, which frankly led to some pretty tough pills to swallow.
Oh, the pumpkin story.
Giant pumpkin, yes. So when Lorna is 8, she decides to grow pumpkins. She meticulously tends to this patch right by her window. And she eventually grows this massive, prize-winning pumpkin.
But there's a catch.
A huge catch. The vine had crept through the fence, so the pumpkin actually grew entirely on her neighbor Mr. Mouse's side of the property line. Come harvest time, her grandfather makes her give the entire pumpkin to Mr. Mouse.
Just as a thank you for using his land.
Yes, and Lorna throws an absolute fit, just wailing on the ground, which I have to say makes total sense. She's 8 years old.
Right, she did all the work.
Exactly. She watered it, she tended it. Giving away her prized pumpkin seems remarkably harsh for a little kid.
It is an aggressive intervention, I'll give you that. But the grandfather is trying to break a fundamental human illusion about ownership.
How does he do that?
He carries her down to the river.
Yeah.
Right. And he asks her a very specific question. He says, "Are you a mighty river or an ocean?"
And she says no, obviously.
Right. So he explains the mechanism of natural forces versus human boundaries. Like, an ocean doesn't ask permission to flood a shoreline.
Right.
A river doesn't apologize for cutting through a valley. They are forces of nature. Humans, however, we have this dangerous tendency to act like forces of nature. We take up space, we extract resources, we expand our footprints without a second thought.
Oh, I see. We just assume if we planted the seed, we own the result, regardless of whose soil it drained.
Precisely. He's teaching her the psychology of spatial occupation. When you take up space that belongs to someone else, even unintentionally, like a vine creeping through a fence, you create a debt. Giving the pumpkin away is an early lesson in humility. It forces her to recognize that she is not a river. She's a participant in a delicate ecosystem of boundaries. And occupying that ecosystem requires active gratitude, not just passive extraction.
That's intense. And that refusal to sugarcoat reality for a child, it's a recurring theme in the book. The grandfather, he didn't believe in shielding Lorna from the darker, more complex parts of human nature.
He actively exposed her to them.
Yeah, like during his weekly domino games, he plays with his lifelong friends, Mr. Tang, Mr. Musa, and Mr. Katz. And little Lorna would just pull up a stool and listen to these men tell stories.
And they didn't hold back.
No. One week, Mr. Katz shares this grim mystery about a 3-generation household. It's got a grumpy granduncle, a grandmother with dementia, and 5 kids. And they find a stray cat dead in the guest bathroom with a chopstick protruding from its ear.
Which is such a dark thing to talk about in front of a 7-year-old.
Right. But the men, they just treat it like a logic puzzle. They're debating if the grumpy uncle did it. But 7-year-old Lorna chimes in and deduces that the 3-year-old girl killed the cat.
Over a dumpling, I think.
Yep. Likely because it stole her dumpling. And Mr. Katz confirms she's right, the toddler did it. But then grandfather takes it a step further. He tells Lorna that children can be efficient, unremorseful killers who operate entirely outside of adult logic.
Which is chilling.
And then he just casually drops the information that one of the men sitting right there at the dominoes table was a child soldier at age 7.
And he deliberately leaves the tension hanging in the air.
He doesn't say who it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He never points out which man is the former child soldier. And by doing that, he's teaching her a crucial lesson in the object permanence of trauma.
The object permanence of trauma. Wow.
Yeah, because just because a man is currently a grandfather laughing over dominoes, it doesn't mean the 7-year-old killer isn't still locked inside him somewhere. He respects her cognitive capacity enough to just hand her a dark, unresolved truth and trust her to hold it.
He trusts that time and maturity will help her process it when she's ready. And, we see that exact same philosophy applied to her own identity later on.
The graduation story.
Yes. So, fast forward. Lorna is graduating high school. Her massive extended family gathers for this lineage lineup.
It's a gorgeous ritual.
It really is. It's this greeting ritual where they touch foreheads, they hold the physical connection, and share this deep heart-to-heart hug. But the real revelation happens right after that.
When she follows them.
Yeah. Lorna secretly trails her grandparents to the family graveyard, and she watches her grandfather speak to the gravestone of Esther. Now, for context, Esther was the woman Lorna grew up believing was her older sister who died in a car crash when Lorna was just 4.
But that's not the truth.
No. The grandfather looks at the grave and says, "Esther, your daughter is graduating high school."
Oh, man.
Right. In one sentence, Lorna's entire reality just shatters. Esther wasn't her sister. She was her mother. And the man she called dad her whole life. He wasn't her grandfather's son. He was his son-in-law.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
Think about that. It's like living in a house your whole life, assuming a door at the end of the hall is just a broom closet, and then one day you open it and find an entire hidden wing. How do you keep a structural reality that massive hidden from a child for 18 years?
Well, the grandfather's explanation for this completely upends how we usually think about deception.
Yeah.
Because when Lorna finally confronts them, he tells her, there's really no such thing as a family secret. It's usually just a question unasked.
A question unasked.
Yeah. Think about it psychologically. When Lorna was 4 and tragically lost her mother, her psychological immune system was completely overwhelmed. Her grandparents simply absorbed her into their daily care routines.
And because she felt perfectly secure and loved, she just stopped asking questions about her mother.
Exactly. They didn't lie to her maliciously. They just built a protective scaffolding around her. They recognized that forcing a 4-year-old to confront the permanence of maternal death would break her.
So they held the truth in escrow.
That's a great way to put it. The unasked question framework shifts the burden from malicious secrecy to compassionate timing. Like, a secret is something you hide to protect yourself, right?
Yeah.
But an unasked question is a truth you hold until the other person has developed the emotional architecture required to actually process the answer.
That concept of holding space and waiting for the right environmental conditions to reveal a cure, it isn't just a psychological tool for them, though. It's the literal foundation of their medicine.
Called the bushwalks.
The bushwalks. So during one of these walks, when Lorna is 12, the grandfather points out a highly poisonous berry bush, and then he paces out exactly 12 feet to show her the antidote plant.
Nature's proximity.
Right. He explains that the earth often provides the cure in the exact same microclimate as the danger.
He uses these bushwalks to outline a much grander biological framework for her, like when they use tobacco smoke to calm the bees and harvest a honeycomb.
Oh, yeah.
He gives her this mantra. He says, "In you is a world." He's mapping the macroecology of the forest right onto the microecology of the human body.
Just as the hive contains an entire intricate society, every human carries a world within them.
We understand this scientifically today, right? The human microbiome contains trillions of microorganisms functioning as a distinct ecosystem. He was teaching her that healing isn't about fixing a broken machine, it's about rebalancing a world.
And that philosophy is pushed to its absolute limit during the sugarcane harvest. This part is intense. A controlled burn in the fields goes terribly wrong, and this young man named Oscar, who, by the way, happens to be Lorna's secret crush, he is severely burned.
It's horrific.
They rush his charred body to the grandfather's porch, and the intervention they perform, well, it sounds terrifying to a modern ear.
It sounds medieval.
Seriously. They dig a pit in the earth, they angle Oscar at 45 degrees, and they pack his body in a thick mud made of water, herbs, and yeast. They insert bamboo tubes into his nose so he can breathe, and they seal his ears and mouth with beeswax.
It's an intense, completely sensory-depriving environment.
Yeah, and here's where I need you to explain this to me, because if you hear about burying a severe burn victim in a pit of dirt and yeast today, the immediate thought is massive, fatal bacterial infection. How does a mud pit actually function as a trauma unit?
It sounds wild, but the mechanics of it are deeply aligned with modern trauma care principles.
Wait, really?
Yes. Think about what a severe burn does. It destroys the skin's ability to regulate temperature and keep out pathogens.
Yeah.
So that thick clay mud, it acts as a synthetic dermis.
Okay.
It provides an immediate cooling effect to stop the thermal damage from penetrating deeper into the muscle tissue.
Yeah.
And the yeast and those specific herbs they use, they create a biologically active barrier.
Like an antibiotic.
Essentially, yes. It's a localized, natural antimicrobial shield that outcompetes harmful bacteria. It functions a lot like modern silver sulfadazine dressings do in burn wards today.
That is mind-blowing. And the beeswax.
The beeswax seals off the mucosal, entries the mouth and ears from airborne pathogens and the dirt itself. And then later on, as he heals, they use whey to cleanse the skin and a mixture of aloe, snail extract, and honey to regenerate the tissue.
Which, again, sounds crazy, but snail extract is everywhere in skincare now.
Oh, absolutely. Honey is highly osmotic, meaning it draws moisture out of bacterial cells and destroys them, while snail mucin is packed with glycoproteins and hyaluronic acid, which we literally use in high-end dermatology today for accelerated tissue repair.
Wow. But the physical treatment is only half the battle in the story. To keep him alive in that pit, the men play a relentless heartbeat rhythm on drums for days.
Yes, the communal effort.
And the grandmother physically forces Oscar's panicked mother to kneel by his head and breathe in exact synchronization with him. She's chanting into his ear for days on end.
Which is arguably the most critical intervention of all.
More than the mud.
Yes. A severe burn victim is at an extreme risk of psychogenic shock. Their nervous system can simply shut down due to the overwhelming pain and trauma. By surrounding him with that rhythmic drumbeat and having his mother sync her breathing with his, they are hacking his autonomic nervous system.
They're using her vagus nerve to regulate his.
Exactly right. They are anchoring his slipping consciousness to the rhythmic breath of the woman who gave him life. The auditory processing of the drum and the tactile sensation of his mother's breath, it creates a sensory tegger to the physical world.
So when the grandfather says, "Earth and time heal all wounds," It isn't a passive statement.
No, not at all. It requires leveraging the Earth's biological materials, yes, but also using human connection to literally buy the body the time it needs to regenerate.
That biological and emotional anchoring, the idea that two nervous systems can become so intertwined they actually sustain each other, that brings us to the end of the grandfather's life.
It's a very moving part of the text.
It is. Grandma Agnes eventually falls ill with a respiratory condition. And through this illness, a deep childhood trauma of hers is finally revealed. She grew up in India in a family caste that handled human waste.
Right.
And the olfactory memory of that stench was so traumatizing that it literally haunted her entire life.
The olfactory bulb in the brain is directly connected to the amygdala,
Right. Okay.
which processes emotion and trauma. So for Grandma Agnes, a specific smell wasn't just unpleasant, it was a direct trigger for deep psychological distress.
And the grandfather knew this.
He understood this mechanism completely intuitively. He spent decades surrounding her with roses just to provide a sensory override. He was constantly replacing the trauma of her past with the botanical beauty of their present.
And when she realizes her lungs are failing and she's going to die, she makes one final request. She asks the grandfather to place a red rose in her mouth when she passes so she can carry the scent into the next life and find him.
Wow.
He climbs their ancient cotton tree, comes down with a red rose, and places it in her mouth as he kisses her goodbye.
And the biological fallout for the grandfather after her death is staggering.
He goes downhill fast, right?
He does. Without her, he rapidly declines. Lorna's father later explains to Lorna's son, Augustus, that the grandparents had been together so long they inhaled and exhaled at the exact same rate and pace.
That's incredible.
They'd completely synchronized their sympathetic nervous systems. So when her breathing stopped, his biological drive to continue without his anchor simply vanished. He basically willed himself to pass.
But before he lets go, he leaves Lorna with one final secret about that ancient cotton tree where they spent so much of their time.
The rose graft.
Yeah. Decades earlier, when Grandma Agnes was pregnant with Esther, she kept scratching her swollen belly on the thorns of her beloved rose bushes. And the grandfather, acting out of this sudden surge of protective anxiety, he ripped up all the bushes and burned them.
He destroyed her sensory anchor in a moment of panic.
He did. And he realized immediately what a massive mistake he'd made. To apologize, he went deep into the forest, found a wild rose bush, and secretly grafted it high up into the canopy of the massive cotton tree. He turned their family gathering place into a living, blooming monument.
That's just a stunning image.
Years later, Lorna passes this legend to her son Augustus. And Augustus actually takes a ladder, climbs high into the ancient branches, snaps a photo on his phone, and brings down a fresh red rose, proving the hidden graft survived all those years.
And the structural metaphor of the cotton tree perfectly synthesizes everything he taught Lorna throughout her life.
No, so?
Well, the tree is the family itself. It has massive, unshakable roots that pull water from the earth, much like their connection to their community and their history. It provides shade and shelter. But the most exquisite part of the tree, the grafted roses, isn't visible from the ground.
You have to look for it.
You have to put in effort. It requires climbing a ladder, literally risking a fall, to discover and preserve it. The grandfather's ultimate lesson is that love is not a passive state, it is an active vertical effort. You have to tend to the graft to keep the beauty alive.
We started with a young girl learning the physics of community through an earth oven. We watched her navigate the jarring realities of human boundaries and family truths, and we saw her witness the raw biological power of communal healing. And it all culminates in a wild rose blooming impossibly high in a cotton tree.
Which leaves you, the listener, with a lot to unpack in your own life.
Definitely.
Think about your own family architecture. What are the unasked questions lingering in your history, just waiting for someone with the maturity to fully ask them? And if in you is a world, like the grandfather taught, what kind of ecosystem are you cultivating right now? Are you passively extracting from the people around you, or are you actively tending the grafts?
Such a powerful framework to carry with you. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Next time you catch the scent of a rose or even the smell of wood smoke, remember Lorna's grandfather. Remember that the earth provides the medicine, but human connection provides the cure. Keep seeking out the hidden stories in your own lives.